Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. Trinidad and Tobago celebrates 46 years as a republic. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 27th September 2022. Details when we return.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago has expressed his hope that when citizens demand wage and salary increases, they will understand clearly that this country is only a small vulnerable unit in a large volatile international market. He made the call as trade unions continue to reject the Chief Personnel Officer's 4% salary increase offer for the public service and the wider public sector. The Prime Minister raised the issue in his Republic Day address. TV6's Joel Brown reports.
In his Republic Day message, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says he will not say much on Trinidad and Tobago's economy because the Minister of Finance is due to deliver his budget 2023 on Monday. And as the majority of the trade unions representing public servants and those employed in the wider public sector have rejected the 4% salary increase offer from the Chief Personnel Officer, the Prime Minister said he wishes to remind the public that on his return from his recent visit to Europe, where he met with the major energy players in the local energy sector, he emphasized that he identified as some truths about the Twin Island Republic's continued dependence on its oil, natural gas, and the energy sector. The Prime Minister said he did so with the hope that citizens, when they demand wage and salary increases, will understand clearly that Trinidad and Tobago is only a small vulnerable unit in a large volatile international market. Only the Amalgamated Workers Union has signed off on collective agreements for the periods 2014 to 2016 and 2017 to 2019 at 4% offered by the CPO. In his Republic Day message, the Prime Minister called on citizens to claim their heritage as he recalled that last month Trinidad and Tobago celebrated its Diamond Jubilee. The Prime Minister said we can point to its many social ills, the current crime wave, the shortcomings in our infrastructure, the buckling and impeded education system, our institutions, our faltering work ethic, disregard in some places of the environment, etc. But Prime Minister Rowley says that on the other side of the national balance sheet, we must give ourselves positive grades as being a people with a confident pride in ourselves. Joel Brown, TV6 News.
In the meantime, Dr. Paris Ram, Trinidad and Tobago's Chief Medical Officer, has been awarded the Order of the Republic for his sterling leadership of the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Jesse Ramdio of CNC3 News has more.
For leading the country's response to COVID-19, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Roshan Parasram has been awarded the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The notice from the Office of the President says Dr. Parasram's unflappable demeanor and professional approach provided much-needed calm amidst the COVID-19 storm. Also receiving the highest award is Professor Sterling Frost, Deputy Chair of the Public Service Commission and professional banker and academic. The award ceremony, which is taking place now at the National Academy for the Performing Arts, will also see most of the public faces of the Health Ministry's COVID-19 campaign receiving awards. Doctors Abdul Richards, Avery Hines and Trotman will all be awarded the Chiconia Gold. Lovers of soca will be pleased to see Marshall Montano receive the Hummingbird Medal Gold in this his 40th year in the profession. Sports stars Nicholas Paul, Marshall Cedeno were also among those receiving Hummingbird Gold. The water god Neil Iwer George will receive the Hummingbird Silver, as will Mark John, the contender.
What's the difference between independence, status, and republicanism? Historian Dr. Michael Toussaint of University of the West Indies of the St. Augustine campus sat down with a CNC3 reporter, Sony Gray, and explained.
This was Barbados in November last year when it officially became a republic.
I, Sandra Prunella Mason, do swear that I will well and truly serve Barbados in the office of President, so help me God.
Turning Dame Sandra Mason from a representative of the Queen, or King of England, to the island's head of state. Trinidad and Tobago has had a head start. We became a republic in 1976. But in recent times, it seems few truly understand what that means. Dr. Michael Toussaint agrees. The history lecturer at UAE's campus in St. Augustine says it has to do with the way our status as a republic is treated by the state.
In terms of national ceremony, in terms of the kind of honor that should be reflected on that day.
Becoming independent was the first step.
That meant that the British government allowed us to have a degree of autonomy, but not the full cake that is rightfully ours.
Good morning and happy independence to you all.
Independence without republicanism can give a country the facade of sovereignty, because what we became in 1962 was a constitutional monarchy, which makes the Governor General, as Dame Sandra Mason was in Barbados, a representative of a monarch who retains control of your security forces. We only gained full control of them and our affairs in 1976, which is why Dr. Toussaint is arguing the way we observe independence in Trinidad and Tobago is better suited for Republic Day.
And what happens on that Independence Parade Day should actually be taking place on Republic Day. Because what we used to have on Independence Day, we paraded before the Queen, the representative of the Queen. The armed forces, police, prisons, service, the defense force, all the crucial armed forces, they show their respect on that day.
Because the pinnacle of that achievement is Republic Day.
What happens on Independence Day should be happening on Republic Day. That's when we rose to the pinnacle of the opportunity, grasping the opportunity to self-actualize as a country. But it would be pointless to do that if you don't understand the significance.
For Dr. Toussaint, history needs to be taught more widely, and there's an urgent need to teach civics in school, which is the study of citizenship and what it means. Because despite all that we've achieved, we don't seem to understand the significance. Soini Gray, CNC3 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Jamaica's National Security Minister Horace Chang clarifies shoot-to-kill comment. More in this TVJ News item with Jamila Maitland.
If they are attacked by brutal gunmen, they must fire back. That's the term I use, which means return fire. And I went on to say, I'm entreating the commissioner to train them well. They should not miss, because if they miss, they die.
National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang, when asked about his controversial shoot-to-kill statement during post-cabinet press briefing this morning.
I never said any instruction. There's no policy or instruction of shoot-to-kill. I think it was quite clear indicated that after giving a good outline of the changes in the police force and the fact that extrajudicial killing is not a part of our culture at all at this stage, not only by virtue of oversight from INDECOM, but the professional standards brought to the force.
And as it relates to denying injured criminals access to emergency response vehicles, such as ambulances, the National Security Minister seemed to double down on his position. He argued that the healthcare system is being burdened with gunshot victims, several of whom are criminals.
The settled policy on dealing with anyone injured in a police operation is that the police vehicles or emergency vehicles take them to a hospital. That has been going on. If there was a comment about the cost of it, yes, nobody likes the idea that when you're waiting in a hospital, in an emergency area, that the surgeon will occupy for 3-4 hours saving a criminal, but they do. And I indicated clearly one of the challenges they have is that when the police take criminals to hospital and save their lives.
But the opposition People's National Party Indicom, human rights groups, among others, have condemned his comments. However, there are those who agree with the National Security Minister while alluding to the country's crime wave. And like the private sector organization of Jamaica, Dr. Chang said there is a need for a short-term immediate intervention. However, with the issues of the regulations under the state of public emergency, the People's National Party has made it clear it will not support SOEs.
We have a discussion with the PNP. We know exactly where they are, and we know exactly what we'd like, but we have to ensure that whatever we do is appropriate legally.
He said discussions are underway to craft a piece of legislation to achieve just that. But when asked how soon the Enhanced Security Measures Bill will be placed on the legislative agenda,
I cannot give you a timeline on them. I've learned that the hard way. But we expect some quick response because we have to, outcome from the law has to be more timely because we do have a major problem on our hands.
Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
Over in St. Kitts, the school's laptop program there will resume under the new administration. Andre Huey of SKN Newsline reports.
Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew disclosed in an interview with SK Newsline that the school's laptop program will resume under his administration. He said the plan is to start with fifth formers and eventually include primary school students.
In terms of the laptop program, we have also started to move to put the laptop program back in place. Why? Because we want our students to have access to technology so that as they educate themselves, they're left behind. They can compete, as we said before, with those in China, India, and across the world, Western Europe, and so forth. Even though we are small, we believe we can educate our people to compete anywhere in the world.
And these are primary school students that will be getting laptops?
So we're going to start with the high schoolers. As we phase it back in. Those in fifth form right now, we're going to do CXC. And as we go along, we start phasing it in. And we're going to go as far as the primary school. The other thing that we're going to do in education is what you call e-education, where we want to go. We're already we're going to lay the fiber optic lines to connect the schools and so forth so that they can have good access to internet and so forth. And so that teachers would also be given the opportunity to have laptops. And so we want to introduce smart boards and so that we can really take the education to the next level. So we are going to be investing in education as well.
The one-to-one laptop program was discontinued by the previous administration as they argued it was not properly administered and that the laptops were mishandled by the students. However, Prime Minister Drew pushed back against such arguments.
Well, I cannot say that most of the time it was not being used for schoolwork. That might have been said to justify ending the program. But like any other new program, it was not a perfect program, but it was a good program.
Right.
So all that needed to be done was to, where there were issues, you could fix them, but you shouldn't just throw out the whole program. So we have picked up that there would have been issues, and when the program is reintroduced, there will be, of course, a plan to deal with those issues. But also, new issues will arise. But that does not mean we should take the technology from the students.
Right.
When you go to the most developed countries, the students technology has become just the norm for them. If we don't get to that state here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we will be left behind.
The Prime Minister said the laptop program is part of the social programs that his administration will be implementing during his tenure. He assured that the government can afford to pay for the program. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.
Hubbard's is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at hubbardshardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.